This is one of the most important strategies for you to have in your arsenal, and I see almost nobody talking about it. It's a very specific technique that you need to know in order to have a efficient and timely return on your claim. Most people are spinning their wheels on their VA claim. I'm going to show you where we're going wrong, and guess what? This probably applies to you because it applied to me. I'm going to show you how to fix it, okay? All within 5 minutes. Jordan Anderson, VA Claims Academy. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more valuable intel like this. Here's the issue we have. Most transitioning service members and veterans do not know where they are in the process. They do not know you are here. You're one of the top 20%, right? You're actually seeking an education here on YouTube. That means that you should know that there are 3 stages for how the rater is going to look at your claim. They're going to look at number 1, does the condition that you're claiming exist? Remember, not does it exist in reality, does it exist on paper? I say this all the time. The VA does not exist and operate in the plane of reality. If it did, things would be much easier. It exists as a bureaucracy, meaning it has to be diagnosed, an official medical diagnosis on paper. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is there a nexus? A nexus means service connection. Is there a connection implicitly to your service, your active duty service? So, for instance, if you were diagnosed on active duty, that is implicitly a nexus. Boom, check. Or if you have a nexus letter, if you were not diagnosed during active duty, that's a nexus as well. Or if you're presumptively service connected, you look at the PACT Act, for example. Maybe you have rhinitis and you were exposed to burn pits. That's your nexus. The final, and here's how it ties all together, is the severity. Listen to what I'm about to say. The severity through the lens of 38 CFR. Not how it affects your day-to-day life, not the severity to your personal life in reality. Remember, this is a bureaucracy. It needs to be on paper. And the paper, the Bible, right, for how this is severe, needs to be through the lens of 38 CFR for that specific condition. When we talk about playing chess and not checkers with the VA, I use that metaphor for a very specific reason. In chess, you're about strategizing, right? It's about knowing where you are, knowing your opponent's playbook, in this case the VA, and not falling behind. You want to be a step ahead of your opponent. Here's what we're doing. You will have a veteran who has a diagnosis for headaches, has a diagnosis for sleep apnea. Maybe they got a sleep study. Let's use that example. They got a sleep study, they're diagnosed with sleep apnea, they're prescribed a CPAP machine, and they turn that into the VA. And now they're spending effort getting buddy letters from their spouse and friends about how they're snoring at night. My friend, you have the diagnosis. It exists. The rater sees that diagnosis and they're moving on to step 2. Is it service connected or not? You're still putting effort and resources trying to take ground that you have already established. You're spinning your wheels, and going back to the chess metaphor, your opponent is 1 step ahead of you. They're 1 move ahead of you. You're being outmaneuvered. That is a huge issue. Once you have the diagnosis, boom, you took the ground, keep advancing. Pivot, move on, move on. You spend too much time trying to convince the VA of things that you do not need to convince them of. Know where you're at in this 3-stage process. Number 2, this is huge. Once you see the diagnosis, okay, that's check. You are pivoting right to attesting to how it's service connected. Either you're saying in your personal statement, right, hey, I was diagnosed during my active duty, see attached medical records. Or, hey, see my nexus letter, I was diagnosed and this is how this condition is connected to my primary service connected condition. You are pivoting to that. Don't spend too much time. I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you have a PTSD personal statement. Here's what most people go absolutely wrong with a massive 70% rating. So this is a huge mistake. I'm going to give this one to you. You will have a PTSD statement. Great job. You wrote a personal statement for your PTSD, but you're going wrong because you're talking about, okay, I had this event happen during combat. This explosion went off, yada, yada, yada. People are taking 2 pages talking about the event and how traumatic it was. So you have the diagnosis. It's clearly service connected because it's combat related. The VA rater is looking and skimming through all this stuff, waiting to hear about the severity through the lens of what? Through the lens of 38 CFR. So for the case of combat related PTSD, They are waiting to hear about how PTSD affects you at work and affects your relationships. And you're still talking about your event. At that point, you're venting, right? You're venting. You're not being strategic. You are not playing chess because, again, the radar's right here. They're waiting for you to make your move. They're waiting. They're already here, and you are a step behind. You're talking too much about, yes, I actually have PTSD. You're trying to convince them. Clearly, you have the diagnosis. Oh, it's service-connected. It's service-connected. We already established that. It's combat-related. All you need is a paragraph. Pivot. Take new ground. This is why you're not advancing and getting all the way to home base, is because you're not taking new ground at the appropriate time. Know the stages, know what you have, know your ammunition, right? Know what you, bumped the microphone. Know your ammunition, know where you're at. That way you can know when you're taking new ground and when you're spinning your wheels on stage 2, when the VA Raiders way ahead of you waiting on stage 3. The last sentence, the last couple sentences usually I see on personal statements that I read are now, okay, yeah, and it affects me this way. That shouldn't be 2 sentences. That's the meat and potatoes. We need to know the severity. This is how you are rated. This is your percentage right here. Why are you spending 2 sentences on that? Because you didn't know where you were. I can't stress that enough. This process, knowing where you're at, you have to know the overview of the VA claims process and see it from the Raiders' perspective to truly play chess and not checkers. I really hope this helped. If it did, hit the like button and share it with a fellow veteran who needs it. Otherwise, have a good weekend and cheers.